Carla Thompson stepped out of her sleek black SUV onto the concrete sidewalk, her high heels clicking softly in the early morning air. The sky was still tinted with pink and gold, a promise of warmth and light, but Carla felt only the crisp edge of unease. She checked her reflection in the tinted window of the bank's front doors. Her dark hair was pinned in a neat bun, her tailored navy suit sharply pressed. In her eyes, those steady, confident eyes held a flicker of tension. Today she carried more than her usual confidence. In her leather portfolio lay a check for $10,000, the largest gift her nonprofit had ever received. She had flown half a world away last week to meet the donor, and now she intended to deposit the funds in time for Monday's community grant approvals. She pushed through the glass doors and felt the familiar hum of activity, soft music playing under the bark of tellers calling out next, and the rustle of paper as staff sorted forms. A tall green plant leaned in a corner, and polished marble floors reflected the midday gleam of recessed lighting. Carla paused to inhale deeply, smoothing the front of her blazer. She had been banking here for years. Pinnacle Bank had once courted her company's business, praising her work in affordable housing and youth mentorship. She expected only the smoothest of service. A line of 3 people waited at the customer service counter. Carla flicked a glance at them, an elderly man with a cane, a young couple with a restless toddler, and an office assistant juggling coffee and phone calls. She stepped forward, offering a polite nod to the teller behind the glass partition. The teller, a woman barely out of her teens with pastel hair and heavy eyeliner, looked up from her screen. There was no friendly greeting, only a quick side-eye, as if Carla's presence was a mild inconvenience. Carla cleared her throat. "Good morning," she said, sliding her check and ID across the counter. Her voice was warm, even. "I'd like to make a deposit into my foundation's account, please." The teller's lips pressed into a straight line as she picked up the check. She glanced at it, then at Carla's name on the ID, and back at the computer screen. After a long, deliberate pause, she said, "I'm sorry, but our manager isn't available right now. We're short-staffed. You'll need to come back in about 30 minutes. Carla's heart skipped. 30 minutes? At an important conference call in an hour and a half, and this branch was her most convenient option. "I see," she replied, keeping her tone even. "Is there someone else I can speak with? A supervisor, perhaps?" The teller's expression stayed blank. She tapped the desk with her fingernail. "No," she said flatly. "Only the manager can approve this kind of deposit." He stepped out for a bit. She risked a glance toward the manager's office at the back, where a middle-aged man with silver hair was clearly visible through the frosted glass, sipping coffee and reading a file. Carla felt a sudden rush of heat. She looked at the other customers in line. The elderly man with the cane watched her with concern. The young couple's toddler tipped toward her father, pointing curiously. The office assistant tapped her phone anxiously, perhaps worried she'd miss a meeting. Carla raised her voice just a notch. "May I know when the manager will return?" she asked. "I have a deadline to meet." The teller shrugged, barely moving. "Around 10:30. We opened at 9. Time was 10 past 10 now." Carla's palms grew slightly damp. She exhaled slowly, chosen because she refused to show impatience. "Could you at least log a note that I came in today, so he can see I made the effort?" The teller clicked a key, sent a quick email, then handed the check back. "Message sent," she said. "Come back after 10:30. Carla took back her check and ID, her fingers closing around the leather folder. She would have taken 2 steps back, but she stayed, her posture calm yet firm. "Is there another branch nearby?" she asked softly, reminding herself that dignity was not shameful. The teller shrugged again, then offered a local branch number on a sticky note. Carla looked at the note: branch 215, 20 minutes from here. Too far. She glanced toward the manager's office again. He was still there. She knew that if she stepped away now, the teller would say she had simply left without service. And she had. And she would not return under this treatment. A quiet indignation settled over her. She folded the sticky note and slid it into her folder. Carla turned her back briefly, offering one final look to the other customers. The elderly man offered a sympathetic smile. The office assistant mouthed, "I'm sorry." Carla managed a small nod. She cleared her throat and addressed the teller once more. "Thank you," she said, her voice courteous but carrying the weight of wounded pride. Then she gathered her portfolio to her chest and stepped away from the counter. In the lobby, she felt the cool glow of morning light through the glass front. For a moment, she let herself feel the ache in her chest, the sting of being assumed less capable, less worthy, simply because of the color of her skin and the weight of her suit. She had solved much harder problems in boardrooms and on international trips. But this was different, a moment of bias so petty, so personal. She closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, and focused on the steady, rhythmic beat of her heart. Carla crossed the lobby toward the exit. She passed the bank's information kiosk. She tapped her phone and typed, "Service denied at branch 412. Hold on." The message went to her coup, Martin Lee, whose quick mind and calm commentary she trusted implicitly. Martin would know exactly how to move next. Carla opened the door, and the gentle whoosh of cool air greeted her. She stepped out the glass, door sliding shut behind her with a quiet sigh. She stood for a moment on the sidewalk, looking back at the bank's polished facade. People bustled past, commuters hurrying to office buildings, a jogger pausing to breathe. The world carried on. Carla's breath was even now, her shoulders squared. She felt her vision sharpen. She would not allow this petty denial to derail her day, her mission, or her dignity. Carla placed a hand on the hood of her car, the metal. Warm under her palm, she whispered to herself, "Okay, let's fix this." Then she slid into the driver's seat, buckled her seatbelt, and started the engine. The car hummed to life, and she drove off, her mind already mapping the next steps. A call to the bank's regional office. A review of the service contract, a meeting with legal and her finance team. All of this before lunch. As she merged onto the street, her phone buzzed. Martin's reply. On it. Stay calm. Carla allowed herself the faintest smile. She felt the sting lessen, replaced by a warm glow of purpose. Today, she would demonstrate to Pinnacle Bank that respect was non-negotiable both for herself and for every client who walked through their doors. She pulled away, her heels clicking again as she crossed the parking lot. In that moment, she was more than a customer. She was a leader ready to ensure that no one else faced the same small indignities she had just endured, and she would see it done. Carla stood on the sidewalk, her phone glowing in her hand. The morning sun felt warm against her back, but she still felt the chill of what had just happened. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. With a few quick taps, she sent a message. To Martin Hercule, denied service at branch 412. Hold on. She hit send. She felt a surge of calm. Martin was sharp and level-headed. Would know exactly what to do next. Carla slipped her phone into her purse and turned her eyes back to the bank's entrance. She noticed the young teller glance up, unsettled by her quiet resolve. The teller's shoulders sagged slightly, as if she felt the weight of something unspoken. Carla let the door close briefly behind her, then walked right back in. Inside, the bank lobby felt smaller than before. The polished floors gleamed under the lights. The soft music still played. Carla noticed the customers in line, shifting nervously, as if they sensed that something had changed. Ahead of her, the young teller tapped her pen against the counter. Carla saw the pale note on the desk. Branch 215, 20 minutes away. Got a guard. But Carla's eyes went straight to the frosted glass door of the manager's office. She could just make out a silhouette behind it. A few heartbeats later, the door opened, and out stepped Sam Foster, the branch manager.
Ow.
He was a man in his mid-40s, with neat silver hair and a kindly face. He looked at Carla with concern. "Ms. Thompson? I'm so sorry you had to wait," he said, his voice warm. "I just stepped out for a moment. How can I help you now?" Carla met his gaze without anger. She folded her arms gently, holding her portfolio against her chest. "Good morning, Mr. Foster," she said, her voice calm. "Thank you for coming out. I tried to make a deposit a few minutes ago, but I was told I had to wait for you. The teller said you were unavailable." She paused, letting her words sink in. Sam nodded and gestured toward the counter. Yes, I apologize. We had a bit of a rush and I had to step into an urgent meeting. He adjusted his tie. If you'd like, I can take care of your deposit right now. Carla tilted her head. That would be helpful. But I want you to understand exactly what happened. She laid her portfolio on his desk and opened it, revealing the check and her ID. He leaned forward, concern in his eyes. Please, go on. Carla described the teller's exact words. 30-minute wait. No supervisor available. Come back later. She told him how she had asked politely for someone else, and how she was handed only a sticky note with another branch's number. She spoke in measured tones, each word clear and precise. I'm sure she didn't know who I was, Carla said. But she assumed I needed special permission, and that assumption caused delay. That delay is unacceptable for any client, especially one who has had a long relationship with Pinnacle. Sam's face fell, and he ran a hand through his hair. I'm really sorry, he said again. I'll have a word with her, make sure it doesn't happen again. Carla held his gaze steadily. I appreciate that, Mr. Foster, but I'm afraid that apology, while welcome, isn't enough today. I came here expecting service already agreed upon. A schedule doesn't allow a 30-minute wait. She closed her portfolio gently. Need this deposit completed before I leave? I need assurance that other customers do not face the same treatment. He looked at the open portfolio on his desk, then back at Carla. I understand, but I have no quick remedy. His voice trembled slightly. If I call someone from headquarters, it could take time. He glanced at the office phone. I could make some calls and see if someone can override the hold. Carla nodded once, then folded her hands. Thank you, but I'm afraid I cannot wait longer. Her voice remained calm, but firm. I'd like to leave now and revisit this issue through other channels. Sam's eyes widened. He swallowed hard. Ms. Thompson, please, let me make it right. Carla gave a small, polite smile. I trust you will, Mr. Foster. But right. Now, I need to move on. She picked up her portfolio and ID, straightened her shoulders, and turned toward the door. Sam called after her, Please, wait, but she opened the glass door and stepped outside before he could finish. The soft click of the latch resonated in the lobby. Once outside, Carla closed her eyes and inhaled deeply. The air felt cooler now, as a gentle breeze stirred the branches of a small tree by the sidewalk. She felt the tension in her shoulders ease slightly. Her heart beat in a steady rhythm. She knew this moment was not just about a deposit. It was about respect, about standards, about making sure no one else's customer or client experienced what she had. Martin's name popped up at the top of her screen, and she tapped. It denied service, she typed. Manager apologized, but no fix. I left. What's next? She hit send. Within moments, her phone buzzed. Martin, on it. Let me gather facts. Carla allowed herself a small nod. She slipped her phone back into her purse and looked up at the bank. Through the glass, she saw Sam standing near the counter, talking to the teller. He pointed toward the exit, his shoulders slumped. Carla felt a faint sense of satisfaction. Her words had weight, but she also felt a surge of compassion. She knew Sam was doing his best in a flawed system. She would hold him in the bank to higher standards, but she would do it with fairness. Carla turned away from the branch and walked toward her car, her heels clicking on the pavement. She passed the information kiosk and noticed a small ad for Pinnacle's mobile app. Bank anywhere, anytime. She smiled wryly. If only it worked everywhere, she murmured. She reached her SUV and paused, looking back one more time. At the building, side, a few customers watched her leave through the glass. The elderly man with the cane gave her a small wave. She lifted her hand in return. Then she opened the door and slid into the driver's seat. Her phone buzzed again. Martin, I've reviewed our agreement. We have breach clause. I'll draft. A note, Carla exhaled. The plan was taking shape. She started the engine and felt the car hum beneath her. Would not let this moment slide. Back at the office, she would coordinate with legal and finance. She would contact regional leadership at Pinnacle. She would ensure Branch 412 learned that respect and service were non-negotiable. As she pulled away, Carla felt a wave of resolve wash over her. This was more than business. It was principle. She would see it through. Carla eased into her leather office chair, the early afternoon sunlight filtering through the tall windows. Her desk was neat, her laptop, a notepad, and a steaming cup of green tea. She had returned from the bank just minutes ago, and the sting of that teller's curt dismissal still hummed in her mind. But now it was time to shift from feeling to doing. She opened her laptop and found Martin's message waiting. Drafting breach notice. Call with CFO in 5. Carla closed her eyes for a moment, then typed back, on my way to finance. Roseanne crossed to the glass-walled finance department. Inside, David Kahn, her CFO, was reviewing spreadsheets on a large monitor. David was in his early 40s, wore wireframe glasses, and had a calm, analytical air. He looked up as Carla entered. Carla, I got your note. Tell me what's happening. Carla set her portfolio on his desk and slid the check inside. Branch 412 at Pinnacle Bank refused my deposit, she said. They told me to wait 30 minutes for a manager. I refused. They offered another branch number 20 minutes away. I left without service. David frowned. That's unacceptable. He tapped a few keys and pulled up their corporate banking agreement on screen. Here, take a look. Carla leaned in. The agreement was clear. Pinnacle pledged to process deposits of up to $50,000 within 10 minutes of client arrival, and to maintain full staff coverage from opening to close. A breach of service clause allowed them, as corporate clients, to suspend privileges if the bank failed its obligations. Carla traced her finger under the clause. This is our leverage, she said. David nodded. Yes, we hold over $5 million in deposits and have substantial credit lines with them. They cannot afford a formal breach notice. Carla exhaled in relief. Good, draft the notice and send it to their regional office. But before that, she paused, thinking, I want to speak directly to their regional VP. I need someone at Pinnacle to understand this is serious. David raised an eyebrow. You want me to join you on the call? Carla shook her head. No, I'll handle it. But I need the exact account figures and contract dates. David went back to his monitor. Carla returned to her desk and opened her calendar. At 3 o'clock, she had a meeting labeled Pinnacle Regional Office Call. She clicked into the Zoom link. Then she drafted a short email to Pinnacle's regional VP, Michelle Carter, attaching the breach notice and requesting an immediate discussion. The subject line she wrote, Urgent Breach of Service. Agreement at Branch 412. She hit send. The clock on her wall ticked toward 3. Carla rose again and walked slowly to the conference room. She checked her reflection. In the glass door, her dark hair pinned back, her navy suit poised, her expression calm but resolute. She entered, sat at the head of the long table, and opened her laptop. Moments later, Michelle Carter's face appeared on the screen. Michelle was sharp, composed, and wore a crisp white blouse. She smiled politely. Carla, thank you for making time. How can I help? Carla returned the smile with measured warmth. Thank you for joining so quickly, Michelle. I'm here because Branch 412 failed to honor our agreed service terms today. They told me to wait 30 minutes for a deposit that should have taken 10. She paused. I left without making the deposit, and I find this unacceptable. Michelle's brow furrowed. I'm very sorry to hear that. That branch is usually reliable. Could you walk me through what happened? Carla recounted the events succinctly, the teller's refusal to escalate the sticky note with another. Branch number, the manager's apology, but no resolution. As she spoke, Michelle listened intently, nodding. When Carla finished, Michelle leaned forward. I apologize on behalf of Pinnacle. This clearly violates our own standards. I'll investigate immediately. Carla nodded. Thank you. Invoking the breach of service clause in our contract. I've sent formal notice to your compliance team. Effective immediately. You must suspend operations at branch 412 for all accounts under our corporate umbrella until you can demonstrate corrective measures. Michelle blinked. Suspend operations? That is drastic. Carla kept her voice steady. It's in the agreement. We hold significant funds there. If you can't provide basic service, we can't keep our accounts there. I'm prepared to move our banking elsewhere if necessary. Michelle closed her eyes briefly. I understand. Please give me until this afternoon to report back with a plan. I'll escalate to the executive team and arrange for retraining, staffing changes, and process reviews. Carla nodded once. I appreciate that. I will expect your report by 5 p.m. today. Thank you, Michelle. The call ended. Carla exhaled and leaned back in her chair. She felt a mix of relief and determination. She had made her position clear. Branch 412 would feel the impact, but she was not done. She closed her laptop and returned to David's office. They're investigating, she told him. I have until 5 for corrective action. Meanwhile, draft our letter terminating any personal credit lines with Branch 412 staff and copy their compliance team. David nodded and got to work. Carla stepped back to her desk and sipped her now warm tea. She thought about the tellers. Blank stare, the manager's apology, and the feeling of being dismissed. She recalled how many women and people of color faced similar small rejections every day. This was not just about her deposit. It was about respect for every customer. She opened a new email draft to her legal counsel. She wrote, "Please prepare notice to terminate individual relationships with Branch 412 employees under our company's network. Emphasize service failure and breach of diversity commitment." With that sent, she opened her calendar again. At 4 p.m., she had another call. A video meeting with Pinnacle's CEO, Thomas Reynolds. This was the top of the top she wanted. To drive home the lesson, service standards apply to everyone, regardless of who stands before the teller. She left her office and joined the call from a private alcove near the reception area. The bank's CEO filled the screen, a tall man with salt and pepper hair and a commanding presence. Greeted her warmly. "Carla, it's a pleasure. I heard about your issue. Please tell me more." She greeted him, then walked him through the events, focusing less on her own position and more on the principle when any client arrives. Regardless of name or title, you owe them your full attention. We trust Pinnacle to respect every person equally. Today, you failed that trust. Thomas Reynolds listened thoughtfully. Carla could see him leaning in. She continued, "I contacted Michelle Carter at your regional office. I invoked our breach clause. She has until 5 to offer a full remediation plan. I expect staff retraining, policy change, and disciplinary action where needed." Thomas nodded solemnly. "You're absolutely right. This should never happen. I apologize personally. I will ensure your report arrives today and that you see real change at Branch 412. His tone was sincere. Carla allowed a small, polite smile. "Thank you. I know Pinnacle can do better. My goal is not to punish, but to ensure fairness." He agreed, and the call ended. Carla sat back. The sun was lower now, painting warm bands of light across her desk. She felt something shift inside her. Not anger exactly, but a deep sense of responsibility. She had moved from hurt to action. She had used every resource wisely: contract terms, corporate relationships, direct communication with leadership too. Protect her own dignity and to send a strong message that bias in service would not be tolerated. Her phone buzzed. Martin's name appeared again. He sent a short note. "Legal notice. Sent to compliance copied. Finalizing credit terminations." Carla tapped back. "Excellent. Please prepare draft for review." She closed her eyes, leaning back in her chair. A moment of calm washed over her, and she straightened, rising to gather her notes. She would meet with her team at 5 to review the bank's response. She would share this story with clients and partners to encourage them to hold all service providers accountable. She stood by the window, looking out at the city below. The traffic moved steadily, the office lights in nearby buildings beginning to flicker on. She felt a surge of quiet pride in her posture, in her calm insistence on respect, in her ability to turn a small injustice into a meaningful stand for equity. Tomorrow, she thought, organizations everywhere might read the headlines. Today, she had written the first lines herself. And she had done it not with anger, but with clear strategy and unwavering resolve. In 5 minutes, she reminded herself, the bank's deadline would arrive. She would be ready. Carla sat at her desk when her phone buzzed again. The screen showed an email from Pinnacle's compliance office. She opened it carefully, her heart steady. The subject line read, "Immediate suspension of branch 412 operations." Inside, the letter explained that all corporate and personal accounts tied to her company were on hold at that location. Carla allowed herself a quiet nod of satisfaction. She had given them every chance to correct their mistake. Now, they would feel real consequences for failing to treat her and every customer with basic respect. Outside her office window, the city moved on as always. People hurried by on sidewalks, taxis beeped insistently, and a street cleaner swept fallen leaves into piles. For Branch 412 staff, however, the day had turned upside down as soon as the suspension notice hit there. Work email tellers froze behind counters. The manager tried calling regional support, but phones rang unanswered. A small crowd gathered outside. The branch's locked doors customers who arrived for routine. Transactions now faced a padlocked entrance and a typed notice taped to the glass. That notice was short and clear. Branch 412 is temporarily closed for corporate account services due to breach of contract. We apologize for the inconvenience. Please contact Pinnacle Regional Office for alternatives. Underneath, a list of nearby branches and hotline numbers offered other options. But the padlock itself spoke louder than words. For a teller who had brushed Carla off just hours earlier, the sight of locked doors must have been a stark lesson in cause and effect. Across the street, a local reporter snapped photos. Within minutes, the story appeared on social media. Top CEO suspends. Local bank branch over bad service. Comments poured in, many praising Carla's firm stand. Some wondered if she was too harsh. Others shared their own stories of being dismissed or delayed by frontline employees. Carla saw her phone light up with messages of support from colleagues, fellow executives, and nonprofit partners. She felt humbled by their trust and ready to move forward with the next steps. Meanwhile, Pinnacle's regional VP, Michelle Carter, pulled together a team in the regional office. She apologized personally to Carla on a brief call, then organized a video conference with Branch 412 staff. The teller and the manager joined from the branch lobby, looking tense. Michelle led the meeting with honesty. She explained the suspension, the reasons behind it, and the need for urgent retraining. The teller admitted she had assumed Carla's request was special and beyond her authority. She looked down at her lap, ashamed that she had let her own biases guide her actions. The manager, Sam Foster, spoke up next. His voice cracked slightly as he took responsibility for poor oversight. He said he had trusted the teller to seek help, but he had not ensured backup plans were in place. He apologized to Carla and to his team. "I failed to lead you well," he said, eyes glistening. Staff listened in silence. It was a painful moment, but one full of promise for real change. Michelle promised that everyone would receive diversity and service training, that new staffing schedules would prevent shortages, and that Carla's foundation would meet with them personally to share her perspective. Back in her office, Carla reviewed the plans Michelle had sent. She saw details of scheduled workshops on unconscious bias, customer service drills, and process audits. She felt relief that Pinnacle was taking concrete steps. At 3 days past deadline, the bank reopened Branch 412 specifically for her foundation's transactions. Carla escorted a small team of trainers to the branch for a live table discussion. There, tellers practiced greeting simulations, learned how to escalate requests properly, and heard Carla describe how it felt to be dismissed. She spoke gently but firmly. "Every person who walks in deserves our full attention, not because they hold titles, but because they are people." After the training session, Carla met with Sam and the teller in a private office. She thanked them for their openness and courage in facing the situation. She offered to share her foundations, resources on leadership development. She ended by saying, "Respect has to be earned and practiced every day. I know you can do this." The teller looked up, eyes bright. "Thank you, Miss Thompson. I understand now. I'll never make that mistake again." Carla nodded, feeling the moment's real victory. That evening, Carla joined a live stream Q&A with small business owners across the country. She shared her story without bitterness. She described the steps she took, documenting the incident, reviewing the contract, contacting the right people, and following through with accountability. She emphasized practical advice. Know your agreements, communicate clearly, and hold vendors to their promises. She saw chat messages flood with gratitude and personal stories of clients who had felt disrespected in other settings. Many wrote that they felt empowered to stand up for themselves after hearing how she had handled it. In the days that followed, Pinnacle Bank rolled out service improvement plans nationwide. They updated deposit workflows, hired additional staff, and appointed a diversity officer to oversee frontline practices. Carla received a formal letter from the bank's CEO, Thomas Reynolds, thanking her for helping them improve. He acknowledged that blind spots had gone unaddressed and promised ongoing checks to safeguard every customer's experience. Carla forwarded the letter to her own corporate board, adding a note, "Action and accountability can lead to real change." Let's remember that when we build partnerships, word of the incident spread, other companies reviewed their own contracts and service expectations. Several reached out to Carla for guidance on drafting stronger client agreements. She agreed to host a webinar on contract management and respectful service. She found herself in a new role, not just as CEO of her foundation, but as an advocate for fair treatment in the corporate world. She welcomed the opportunity to help others avoid the doors, both literal and figurative, that had once closed on her. 1 month later, Carla returned to branch 412 for a routine deposit. She walked in confidently, smiling at the new teller who greeted her by name. The lobby was bright, the staff attentive, and the process swift. As she left, she paused to look back at the branch. No padlock this time, only open doors and polished counters. She tapped her phone, sending a quick note to Martin, "We're good here." Then she drove away, the morning sun casting long shadows on the street. That night, Carla reflected on how a small, hurtful moment had grown into a powerful demonstration of standing up for oneself and others. She realized that respect and service were not just bank policies, but human values. She felt grateful for the lessons learned and for the chance to help shape a better way forward. With a calm smile, she closed her eyes, ready to face tomorrow, confident that every time someone walked through any branch door, they would be seen, heard, and valued. Carla woke before dawn, her mind restless with the events of the past month. She reached for her journal on the nightstand and wrote one word at the top of the page: respect. She thought back to that morning when a simple bank deposit became a test of dignity and principle. Now, as she sat by her bedroom window watching the sky turn pale blue, she felt a gentle satisfaction. The story had a clear ending. Doors reopened, service improved, and an entire bank network reminded of its promise. But for Carla, the real ending was only just beginning. At breakfast, she poured a bowl of oatmeal topped with fresh berries and honey. She savored each spoonful, thinking about how small moments like sharing a warm meal could ground a person in calm clarity. Today she had 2 important tasks: deliver a keynote speech at a women's leadership summit and host a virtual workshop on holding service providers accountable. Both events felt connected to her bank story, because at their core, they were about speaking up with calm confidence and clear strategy. She dressed in a simple emerald blouse and black trousers, her hair pulled into a neat ponytail. On her car, she reviewed her notes for the summit speech. She opened with a brief recounting of the bank incident, not to boast, but to illustrate how anyone, regardless of status, could face dismissal or disrespect. Then she planned to explain how. She used her contract, her communication, and her calm resolve to turn that moment into meaningful change. She would end on a motivational note. Each person has leveraged legal terms, social influence, or simply the right to fair treatment. Use it wisely, use it firmly, and use it with integrity. The summit hall filled quickly, women of all ages. Taking their seats, Carla stepped onto the stage, greeted by polite applause. She offered a warm smile and spoke in clear, simple English. "Good morning. Want to share a story about a bank deposit and a lesson in respect." She walked through each step: the teller's refusal, the manager's apology, the contract clause, the calls to regional and executive leaders, and the suspended branch. She paused for effect. All because I refused to accept less than respect. Heads in the audience nodded, some taking notes, others whispering to neighbors. Then she shifted to the core message. We all have moments when we feel small or unseen. It could be a vendor ignoring your email, a service rep cutting you off, or even a colleague dismissing your idea. But you have tools, policies, agreements, networks, even your voice. You can draw on them to stand tall. She offered 3 simple steps. Document the incident, review the agreement, and communicate clearly with the right person. She explained that strategy turned emotion into action. No anger, just resolve. Her final words carried a warm invitation. Respect is not just earned by grand gestures. It's built in each encounter, each greeting, each call, each deposit slip. Let's all commit to honoring the dignity of everyone we meet and to holding ourselves and our partners to that standard. Applause filled the room, and Carla felt a deep sense of connection. She left the stage with several women thanking her, sharing their own experiences of microaggressions and service failures. Some asked for her workshop details. Carla promised to send an email with links and resources. Back at her office that afternoon, she prepared for the virtual workshop on contract management. A group of nonprofit leaders and small business owners joined the video call. Carla began by reviewing sample service agreements, highlighting common clauses that protect clients, response times, escalation paths, and breach remedies. She showed them her own Pinnacle Bank agreement and explained how she found the key clause. Then she walked them through a mock scenario, asking volunteers to role-play. 1 as a customer, 1 as a teller, 1 as a regional manager. The room buzzed with thoughtful questions and laughter when someone mistakenly offered a cookie instead of a policy reference. Carla guided them kindly, reminding everyone that learning is an experiment. An hour later, she closed the workshop by sharing a simple PDF checklist. Note the date and time of any incident. Save emails or screenshots. Look up your contract. And identify who in the vendor's organization can help. She encouraged participants to practice these steps in their own contexts. From banks to internet providers to government offices, a few participants stayed behind on the call to thank her personally. One woman said, "You've given me the confidence to challenge poor treatment without feeling rude." Carla smiled, replying, "You're never rude when you ask for fair treatment. You're only rude if you let bias go unchallenged." As the day ended, Carla reviewed her schedule for the next week. She would visit several of her foundations, community centers, meet with board members to discuss emergency grant processes, and host a panel on ethical leadership. She felt grateful that the bank incident had opened doors to new opportunities to teach and to learn. She believed that every moment of bias, once confronted thoughtfully, could become a catalyst for wider change. That evening, she joined her family for dinner. Her teenage daughter Amina asked about her day. Carla described the speeches and workshops, and Amina's eyes widened. "Mom, I loved how you told them to stand up. I get it now. When someone treats me unfairly, I can use the rules to make them listen." Carla reached over and squeezed her daughter's hand. "Yes, baby. Always know your rights. Always speak up. Always be ready to guide others, too." Her son Malik nodded thoughtfully. "It's like being a superhero, but with a pen instead of a cape." Carla laughed softly. She loved how her children found joy in life's lessons. After dinner, Carla settled into her living room with a cup of chamomile tea. She opened her laptop and checked news sites. Headlines about her bank stand still popped up. CEO turns the tables on bank bias. When contracts become shields, and respect, the most underrated business tool. She scrolled through social media comments, most positive, some critical. A few wondered if she had been too aggressive. Carla took a moment to reflect. She believed in balance. Firmness without hostility. Accountability without revenge. She had stuck to facts, contracts, and polite persistence. She felt confident she had chosen wisely. She closed the laptop and stood by the window, watching the city lights twinkle against the dark sky. She thought about how respect flows in both directions. It starts with each person choosing to see the humanity in another and to stand up for it. She thought about the teller who had been taught a lesson, the manager who had grown, and the bank that was now revising policies nationwide. She thought about the small business owners she had helped and the nonprofit leaders she had empowered. She felt a quiet sense of purpose. Carla took a sip of tea and whispered to herself, "May every door open with respect tomorrow." You thought of the people still facing bias in many forms, and she hoped they would find their own leverage, their own clear path to fairness. She reminded herself that change often begins in small acts. A polite question, a firm contract reference, a calm call to action. With that thought, she blew out the lamp on her side table. The room went dark, except for the soft glow of the city. Beyond the glass, she climbed into bed and closed her eyes, her mind at ease. She knew that tomorrow might bring new challenges, new doors, both open and closed. But she also knew she was ready to stand tall, ready to guide others, to make respect the rule rather than the exception. And with that gentle resolve, she drifted into sleep.